said, the cop said, you know why I stopped you, don't you? I said, yeah, I was the only one you could catch. I told that over at McDonald's one day, and everybody said, I said, well, I didn't think that was anything great. Because one of the guys was a cop. He had been a cop for years, both of them, two of them. And they said, man, I never heard that before. I said, well, that's what happened. But with, running the club, the bar, I had a good friend of mine that would try to help me out when we got busy. And one of the waitresses told me, said he took a $20 bill out of the cash register, and I found out that he did. So I just told him, I said, look, Ray, they call him Baby Ray. Anyway, he's dead now.
Baby Ray.
That was his name, Baby Ray. He used to help it out. He loved to wax and polish cars, but he would try to help me in the club. And after this waitress told me, she said he took $20 out of it, and I found out that he did. I said, well, look, I appreciate your help, but don't help me behind the cash register anymore. Let's just let that go.
You didn't tell him that you knew he was taking the money?
I know. I think he knew at that time. I didn't tell him. I had another older bartender who was another server told me the same thing. A waitress, we call him then. That the old man, I let him. He had been a professional bartender, and he was out of a job, and I hired him. He was good, he was fancy with all the drinks that I didn't even know about. And I found out that he was taking money, and so I let him work the rest of the night. Come time to quit, I said, well, I won't be needing you anymore. Okay. He knew what had happened.
Why didn't you prosecute any of those people? Why didn't you prosecute any of those people?
$5, $10. I guess I could have. Maybe it was less trouble to just get rid of them that way than to prosecute them. How was I going to prosecute them? First of all, what was I going to tell the court? That he was stealing liquor and I didn't even have a liquor license? I wasn't supposed to sell liquor.
So I guess the moral of that story is, when you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, it's fair game to everybody.
That's the way it was. But I had other people who helped me that I believe never took anything from me. That's how well I knew them. This guy called Bobby Lawrence worked at the university, brought a lot of white students from the fraternity over there. And when we got busy, we fed football teams. He would come and help. Hot stuff coming through, he would help till we got everybody fed. I never suspected him of ever taking anything. That's just the way different with people. I mean, I could be wrong, but everybody who I knew him would never think that he would take anything. But then that's the other hand, what the people you don't suspect are the ones that we didn't have that much to take, but they were friends. There was one other one that I keep thinking who that was now. Because I had the record store, 2 record stores, and I just never suspected anybody, or I could kind of keep up with it a certain way. You kind of keep an eye on it. But there was one other one that I know that not in the record business, but in the restaurant business.
That's interesting. When I think about you, when you moved to Atlanta, your mama and Gaynor moved to Atlanta, what, in 66? 67. And you didn't, I guess you had 1 or 2 little odd jobs. Then you got a job at IBM, and you worked there for how long?
From 67 actually to 08, with about 2 years in between when I didn't work. I was another contractor. I retired and went back as a contractor.
So most people, we think, like my friends and me, even when I think about you sometimes, when I don't think about you being from Athens and all the stuff that you've done in Athens, I always thought about you being, just working at IBM. I remember you always had on a dark color suit, a white shirt. You never could have a beard. You left the house every morning at the same time. You came back every night at the same time. You were always off on the weekend. And you did pretty well for yourself in corporate America, especially like IBM Black President in the late 60s, early 70s. But I don't think much about you being an entrepreneur. Like now, all black, everybody think about get your own business, do your own thing. Why did you decide to work for people or work for IBM rather than continue to start business? I know you started one after you left IBM, but why didn't you just continue running your own stuff? Why did you start working for somebody?
The income wasn't great enough, I suppose. Now, if you look at the restaurant, Archibald and Alfred set that up. I was in the Army.
Your brothers?
Yeah, they're brothers. And Archibald had big ideas. He didn't do anything cheap. The restaurant itself was well equipped. We spent a lot of money on it. He didn't mind doing that. And he knew he had been enough places that he knew what he was looking for. And we ran it, and it was run quite well.
But they didn't run the gas station with you and the record store with you.
But they were to. Alfred was supposed to come. We were going to run it together. And as soon as I got the job, as soon as I got the station, he got a job at the University of Georgia. So that left me to run it alone. And I was still running the restaurant because he had come back from school. Archibald could step in. He had to run an ad in the paper as a policeman saying that he was no longer connected with Killian's Four Seasons because as a police officer he wasn't allowed to do that. And I ran it. And when I came back from the Army, I didn't know Scotch or gin from vodka on a Saturday. On a Monday, I was running. On a Tuesday, we didn't open on Monday. On a Tuesday, I was running the club. I got this book called Old Mr. Boston. But we the only drinks we fixed was Tom Collins, Killian Special, which was ginger ale with cherry juice. And that was it, because again, we didn't have a license, and I didn't know that much about it. We'd come to Atlanta to Pasco's and learn what kind of drinks they were making. And we just add up 50 cents or $1 to the price of it. And it was really fun running the place, but I didn't have that much money to do anything extra. Besides, I had a wife and a child. You had to be able to, and I had a new car. I had to make payments on that. But why didn't I guess maybe I was afraid to go and do a new to try to stay and make it off of business. It was funny, I made it as long as I did.
That's interesting, because you would think, having done it twice, most times the first time is scary time. After that, a lot of people I talk to now who own businesses, it's like, hey man, you try something else, and so their mindset is a little bit different. And so I wonder if that's why I haven't ever started a business. All my friends, Dewana, everybody tell me, you gotta start a business. You gotta do work for yourself. And it's just something I just have never done, because I don't want to feel comfortable doing that.
Well, it's a full time. You got to decide that. I remember when Archibald said he wanted to open a grocery store. That was before we ever opened the restaurant. I said, a grocery store? That's 24/7. I might not have used that terminology. I said, I don't want to work all the time. I want to be off on the weekend. But he always said that. And then when they left California, they came back and built, because we had a lot. You know, you talk about generational wealth or whatever.
Yeah.
My daddy had that place, and they were able to get everything to open that club and the restaurant on his. All they had to do was say charges to W.H. Killian, and that was it. He'd been dead for years, but they could still use his account, his name, and we paid for everything.
So he was entrepreneur. I know he was a postal, he was a mail carrier, but he owned a lot of real estate. So like he even had entrepreneurial intentions and spirits in him, right?
Oh yeah, had he lived, well, you never know it, but that was it. He, you know, I told you, somebody poisoned him. You've heard that story.
Right.
But anyway, he put a beauty shop in the basement, a shoe repair shop, and a barber shop. And that's what sent me to college, because we had that. And he had a house that he had bought for $3,000, the one that Archibald lived, you know, where that other lived. He paid $3,000 for that house, and it was fully furnished. And we were supposed to move in that house from where we lived on Harris Street. But he died before that came about. And it was something that he was doing. He was always helping. When my daddy would get home from work at the post office at 3 o'clock, he'd head over to somebody's house to install plumbing, do some carpentry work. He was not a good carpenter. He was about the carpenter that I am. Well, we say measure twice and cut once. Measure once and cut twice. But he knew who to hire someone to. When we did our upstairs in the house, he hired somebody. But the guy he hired was a cousin. He didn't have much capacity to do carpentry. The man he wanted to do was busy. Mr. Brantley was a master carpenter, and we got to do the inside. He was busy, so my dad didn't want to wait, and he hired this cousin who was as country as you could be to help, and he did that. But we put the upstairs in the house, but he was always helping somebody over town, putting in plumbing, electrical thing, or doing something for them, because he knew basically how to do it, and a lot of those folks did not know how to do it. And then we had this guy Fidler, who was mentally deficient, and his sister told my dad, if you take care of him, if I die, you can have this property. So he got the property over in Morristown, which was near where we had the other family property over there. But
so he took care of Fidler?
My mother really took care of Fidler. He lived in the basement of our house, down where the club ended up. That's where he lived. And my mother fed him, clothed him, and he died maybe a year or so before my dad did. But he was in the basement. They had a heater that would heat the water. I don't know how he stayed warm the rest of the time, but it was that was just the way things were back then. But I guess my dad had an eye for nose for getting things done. He was never broke, as far as I know. He never acted broke.
Well, you never acted broke, but then you used to tell me, I used to hear you answer the phone and say, the check is in the mail, and hang up the phone. I had no idea that meant you ain't paid.
My dad had a checkbook. Well, you know, everybody used checkbook. He had one of those big checkbooks, and he would write checks. You couldn't read it, his writing, but everybody knew him. He knew Wally Butts, the football coach at the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
He knew Dean Tate, and the Dean Tate just lived 1 block from us. I've told you that 100 times, I guess. But my dad got along with everybody, but he didn't take no crap from anybody. That was it. He just wasn't going to do it. He and the Callaways, they didn't put up with nobody telling them what to do.
Is that where I got it from?
Probably so, I guess so. That's a good thing, because your mother didn't put up with nothing. So
I always tell about she didn't play the radio. I tell people at work, I said, man, I failed kindergarten because I failed recess. I didn't want to go, I ain't play. They think I'm crazy when I tell them.
Yeah. You gonna pause there? Huh?
No, I'm gonna go down here closer to the door.
So, and the Callaways and the kids, they knew each other. They weren't that much of a real, they just knew each other. I never expected to marry one of them. That's just the way things were.
I'm glad you did.
But, and the day that Archibald built my record shop for me. He was a good carpenter. What am I trying to say? He built it for me, And then afterwards, I built it. He said, "Can I go in with you?" I said, "No, it's about, I think I'll run this by myself." And he said, "Okay." And that's what I did.
They said a spot right there on the end, but the motorcycle tricked me.
Run over him.
Now run over him.
Yeah, ask him to move. Say you don't need all that space.
I should have brought your handicap stick. I had no good handicap stick.
I never thought about it. Isn't there a way to have a portable tenant? I don't. Heck, oh gosh, I got an extra one. I should keep it in one of my pockets.